Bye.
We're back, Matt. We're back.
We're back. I'm off mute. We did it. What's up?
We did it.
What's up, Sam?
Good to see you again. Missed you last week.
Oh, man. You know what? We held down the fort. Without you, though.
You guys did. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, dude. We talked rollout. We talked creating results. We kind of talked about a lot about how Corbin kind of rolled out this hospitality program and specifically got like buy-in from leadership and like, I don't know, just did it right. So it was a good conversation. And what I heard from people is like, people like hearing about practical stuff instead of theory. So it was cool to hear Corbin talk about a lot of really practical stuff last week. So shout out Corbin. Thanks for co-hosting with me last week.
Shout out Corbin Nichols. He's always great. And back-to-back weeks, Corbin on the podcast here.
Oh man,
Holding it down.
He really brought it.
He did. I learned something about you last week that you eat kiwis with the skin on them.
Yeah, well, that was our new segment. Is this
I love it.
Yeah. And I don't have one for this week, but I mean, if you're gonna eat a kiwi, I'm all about efficiency and peeling, getting rid of the skin off the kiwi. That's inefficient.
I thought it was great. Because it's a constant debate. I think I had this debate with Corbin years ago, and a fellow coworker, not about kiwis, but about apples, which he talked about last week, which is we all know somebody who eats the entire apple. There's nothing left over except for the stem, which to me is that okay? That's the original fruit debate. And I never thought it was okay. I can't eat a whole apple. That's not for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that's not okay.
I don't, but yeah, somebody people out there now kiwis. I never even considered eating the skin of a kiwi. So I got a lot to think about now. Maybe I'm doing this all wrong.
Yeah, dude. Now you got to try it. That's all I have to say. You got to try it.
Well, and now we got Tony in the chat saying that you could die from cyanide if you eat too many seeds.
Oh, of the apple?
I guess. Tony, you talking about apples or kiwis in there? Let us know. I don't. Apples.
Yes, apple. Okay. Wow.
I mean,
shout out.
So it's not okay. That is, if that's true, definitively not okay then to eat the whole apple.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
I love Tony dropping knowledge. That's great.
Well, so this week we are going to continue kind of wrapping up our series on talking about hospitality. I know we've been focusing on it for multiple weeks here, but really it's kind of one of the most important things that somebody can teach in the hospitality world, right? In retail and restaurants. Like we heard in that clip from Will Gadara a few weeks ago, like hospitality is a restaurant's competitive advantage. Good product is table stakes. Right. And being able to teach hospitality and implement a culture and a system of hospitality will really give somebody the competitive advantage over anybody else. Will create sort of lasting results. And we talked about codifying standards, how to teach it in an engaging way. We talked to Corbin about creating sustained results through like a structured rollout and reinforcing over time. And today we're going to just kind of wrap up the conversation with specifically how we've taught managers to diagnose and correct the guest experience. Because long term, it's about managers really owning it. A while back, we did a podcast episode with an HR leader from Chick-fil-A, and he had a really great answer to how they at Chick-fil-A really create sustained hospitality over time. We're not necessarily going to be diving into that today, but I loved his answer. Do you remember this, Sam? Do you remember what it was?
All I remember him saying is that it was a system, that it was systems that created it.
With systems, but over time, the way he answered the question of like, how do you create sustained culture of hospitality, is he said that they invest in the emotional intelligence of their managers. I'm like, oh, yeah.
It makes so much sense. It makes, like, when you say it, for those of us that know emotional intelligence or that have studied emotional intelligence, the art of that is the human connection. It is really understanding the interaction with humans, whether you're a manager with employees or with guests. So it makes sense that Chick-fil-A, to do that at scale, would say, hey, our managers need to be emotionally intelligent and convey that to their teams and their guests to be more effective. So when you say it, it's like, well, yeah, I guess that adds up on paper. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, today we're not necessarily talking about that, but we are going to talk about some practical stuff that that we've taught managers, that we've worked with other brands that have taught managers on how to sort of maintain that culture of hospitality through some like specific tactics, and kind of what that looks like. But first, this week we don't have a restaurant spotlight, but we have a training spotlight. Okay?
That's right. That's right. No restaurant spotlight this week.
No restaurant spotlight.
They'll be back though.
Spotlight.
They'll be back.
They'll be back. Training spotlight this week is on sort of a specific training that we created, and it's not, the purpose of this is not like a commercial. The purpose is just to talk about how a training came to life. Because a lot of the people that we talk to, are creating training content, training courses, training modules, training programs. And so Sam's going to kind of break down a kind of a course, a program that we recently created, and sort of how that came to life and what it looks like, and kind of the steps towards that. So
that's right.
Tell us about this training spotlight of the week.
Yeah, not an advertisement, but it's been coming up a lot. And so to me, this is helpful for those trying to solve this problem because it keeps coming up. So this is a like steal shamelessly topic here. Maybe that's the name of the segment, Matt. Steal shamelessly.
Steal shamelessly.
Steal shamelessly. Let me grab this here. But we've been talking about this for a while with this whole hospitality series, in that you need a system for it and it needs to layer. And so to me, this is the best example, because I don't know, for those of you on the call, let us know, or if you're in the chat, let us know if you've been seeing this. But one of our number one requests in the past 12-ish months has been de-escalation training. It has been the idea that, like, yeah, what happens when guests get unruly or even employees get unruly, and we need to shift to de-escalation. And there are even states requiring de-escalation training because for some reason it is getting more and more intense in the environment with guests, with employees. There's rising tension, which means somebody needs to step in and de-escalate, bring the temperature down, stop it from getting into fights, stop it from getting into yelling matches or arguments. And so this has been a topic that's been coming up. When we started teaching it, like many of us out there, if you've been facing this, it's like, it's usually coming from HR or a compliance ask. And so a lot of the training started there. But this was our hack to not let go of hospitality, to say, well, actually, de-escalation is part of hospitality, because we teach what a lot of us teach out there in guest recovery, which is the BLAST framework. Matt, let me know if you can see this okay, if this is working well. Beautiful. So we teach what most restaurants teach. I know like Papa John's teaches this. A few other brands teach this well, which is like, if something goes wrong with a guest, you use BLAST for guest recovery. It's an acronym that basically says you believe the guest, you listen to them, you apologize, you solve the problem, and you thank them. And then we added, you give them a little something extra. Like if it's appropriate, give them a little something extra. That's your exclamation point. That's
Captain Obvious. If you didn't know, he's telling us it's an acronym. Captain
because
Obvious.
it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like to most of us that are doing it, this is now turned into like the industry norm. This is what you should do to resolve a guest dispute. We wanted to bring this up today because as we've been talking about hospitality, to us, the idea of a system is that all of your training needs to work together. It helps from a manager, from a retention, knowledge retention standpoint. If all of these things build on each other versus them being totally separate. When they're totally separate, they're part of different systems. And we're trying to create one system of hospitality. And so what we did, and this is the steal shamelessly, as we kept getting requests for de-escalation training, rather than having it be a separate topic and an HR topic and a compliance topic, we layered it into our customer service and our hospitality training to say if blast is what you should do if a guest gets upset, what happens when you need to go beyond blast? What are the steps when you when you believe a guest, you listen, you apologize, you solve the problem and you thank them, but it doesn't solve the problem. The guest is still getting upset or they're getting more upset. What do you do then? We then introduced Beyond Blast. And Beyond Blast is going to look different in different environments, but here's what we did. And it's a way to teach de-escalation training, which we're being asked to do now more and more, but keep it on brand and on topic and on par with hospitality so that hospitality is still top of mind. So in this case, when we rolled it out, broke it into two key areas. First is de-escalate, lower the temperature. So as a manager, you're stepping in quickly, you're getting your employee out of the area. We teach a little Chris Voss negotiation skill tactic here. If anybody's a Chris Voss fan, he's a great hostage negotiator that is teaching negotiation tips. His number one tip was introduce yourself by name and get the guest's name. Because when we're using names back and forth, all of a sudden it humanizes the experience. And now the temperature gets lowered a little bit because whoever's upset realizes now, oh, that's a person. That's Matt that I'm talking to now. And so a simple tack just to diffuse it is, hey, my name's Sam. I'm here to take care of you. Now, what's your name? And getting the names and using names humanizes it, lowers the temperature. But then you show you're listening by repeating their main points, move to a quieter spot, and stay with the upset guest until they get whatever they need or they leave. All of that is how you lower the temperature. Then it's how do you stay safe? If it keeps getting bad, ask the guest to leave, warn them that you'll call the police, then call the police, call 911, but don't ever follow the guests out of a restaurant. So the tips, take the tips, you can move them around a little bit, but the beauty here is when we're teaching this, we're teaching the legally required de-escalation tactics, but we're doing it as part of the hospitality framework. You're doing it as part of the training and the ecosystem that your team's already harping on, that you're focusing on. You're not distracting them with one random one-off training that's way over here. It's part of a larger ecosystem of creating an excellent guest experience.
I'm curious if anybody out there like has had to create de-escalation training from scratch, or if people are like finding it, like if this is the kind of thing that, I don't know, or any questions, any thoughts on that? So I know we got a lot of people on the call who are experts in training content and have seen a wide variety of needs for de-escalation. So feel free to jump in here if you've got any questions or anything to add to the conversation here.
No. I thought it was topical though for what you and Corbin talked about last week of like, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to distract teams. You got to kind of keep the message alive, keep the main thing the main thing. And yet you got a million different topics that we need to teach and communicate and educate. So a way to keep the system alive and breathing, but stay on topic. We're still talking about hospitality. The goal is still to create a great experience for guests, even if we're trying to de-escalate and prevent violence or anything like that.
I think that's spot on. Like I just love this idea of like not just tacking on random courses, not just tacking on random things because it's legally required, but yeah, anchoring it to the main thing like you're talking about. And everybody has that, everybody has that, and to some extent, it doesn't have to be this, but yeah, when we're adding on some of this legally required stuff or things that are, compliance based or even just grown out of necessity, right? I mean, this was kind of put together recently for a kind of tweak for a different brand, right? Because they had an incident and you worked with this coffee shop that we partner with to kind of introduce something to them. It was based on like an incident, or it was a pizza shop.
Pizza
Our
shop.
pizza partners. Yeah.
They had they had the problem that many young leaders get into, which is what do you do when they were trying to close the restaurant, dining room was closing, guest was intoxicated, but you need the guest to leave the dining room. How do you do that? And what do you do if the guest doesn't leave? It went poorly, to say the least. The young manager tried to get the guest to leave, and the guest wasn't having it. And so, a little fight, a little brawl broke out, which is not what anybody wants under any circumstances. And so there's a way to handle that situation while still having a good guest experience, but getting what you need. And in this case, it's listen, get the authorities involved. Don't try to body up a guest and physically remove them from your restaurant. And especially be aware if your guests are intoxicated. You almost get into bar manager training, nightclub training, bouncer training. When guests are intoxicated, you've got to handle that very delicately. It's a very different situation than a sober guest in the lunch line at noon.
Yeah. Yeah. Or very different from what Philip mentioned here in the chat of of shoplifting. Shoplifting prevention training is different than, dealing with drunken pizza customers. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Philip said that so Philip works with a large grocery retail. They just created a shoplifting prevention training for their store level team members that included some de-escalation skills. I can see that for sure.
Absolutely.
Like it's a tough thing because you're teaching entry level employees, you're teaching managers like something that's like could get them hurt, something that's very delicate. It's one of those things that I feel like it would be easy to look at that as oh, this is just compliance, we have to do this, but like it's actually like could keep somebody safe. Like it could teach somebody like a necessary skill. Like if an entry level grocery employee is dealing with a shoplifter, like that could lead to like actual violence. That could lead to a serious situation. So
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And what we learned through it was like, even in the case when I went in, this manager had no idea they were allowed to call the police. They thought it would look poorly on them as a leader for not being able to handle it. And it was like, oh, well, that's a good realization that young managers need to learn, that like when things escalate, the answer isn't you physically handle. And then like this guy could physically handle the guest. That was not a concern. Like he was not me out there trying to wrestle a guest, but just because you can doesn't mean that's the right way to do it. And for our young managers, they've got to learn, well, how do you handle this appropriately? Keep your team safe, keep the guests safe, keep yourself safe. You don't need to physically touch anybody ever under any circumstances.
Right.
But what do you do? We often talk to your manager, do the thing, but like, what do you actually do? And in this case, he was like, I can just call the cops. I was like, yeah, man, call the cops and wait. Like, don't do anything.
Yeah.
He's like, that would have been a lot easier. Yes, it would have.
Some of these guys are like, I've been waiting for this for years. This is all I've been waiting for. I'm sure even at the grocery, some people are like, I've been waiting for somebody. I've been waiting to chase somebody out the front door who's shoplifting. Like, yeah, they're ready for it. Yeah. Anyways, well, so that is the training spotlight for the week. That's our closing outro graphic. Every week we just do a spotlight, whether it's training spotlight, we've been doing restaurant spotlights, we got some other different spotlights planned over time. But and next week I think we got a restaurant spotlight coming up. But now it's time to move on to today's topic. Like I said at the beginning, this week we are really kind of honing in on teaching managers. So not just like what does a manager do, or like what do you need to communicate to manager, but how do you actually teach a manager to diagnose and correct and maintain the guest experience? So this is something that we've sort of done with a variety of brands, and we're just going to kind of walk you through it today, of specifically like how we would teach a manager to do this. And feel free, if anybody has any questions or wants to add to anything, jump into the chat.
That's right. And since the chat's active today, we can leverage the chat a little bit because we're going to do some live restaurant snooping here to show what we teach. And so this is the kind of next evolution in the series because it requires everything else we've talked about in the previous episodes here, which is you kind of need standards to be defined to get to this point. Because what we're going to ask managers to do is, and this is what we teach in workshops, this is how we teach them to take ownership and accountability for their guest reviews. Now, there are brands that we work with that have Medallia or have some sort of system on the bottom of their receipt where you're tracking guest feedback in an internal system. There are others, though, you might be a smaller brand, you don't have any system of doing this. And so what we teach to start with is just using Google and Yelp reviews. Start there because they're free, they're out there, everybody has access to them. And then you can layer on if you've got Medallia or whatever else you're using internally for guest reviews. You can start using that. But the point here is to teach managers, well, how do you look at what guests are saying when they give you feedback, when they leave a 1-star or a 5-star review? What exactly are they saying? Because that's feedback for your restaurant. And then what do you do with that information once you get it? So that's the premise, is we're trying to get managers and leaders inside of the restaurant to take ownership of the guest feedback systems, whether it's Google and Yelp or Medallia at the bottom of your receipt.
And a quick refresh, or in case you missed it, but the way that we teach guest experience is kind of centered around 3 things: food, feel, flow. Is the food safe? Is the food delicious and consistent? And is the feeling, specifically, are guests getting, greeted? Do guests know that you're there? Do guests know that you care? Are guests being drawn back for more? That's feel. So food and feel, and then flow. Flow is about steady, consistent flow of a line, getting food quickly, and matching the pace of the guest. So all of our hospitality framework is really under those 3 things of food, feel, flow. I just wanted a reminder of that because that's kind of what, like Sam said, how we'll be sort of examining it underneath specifically the system that's already been introduced.
That's right. And the reason we ended up on food, feel, flow is because as we looked at guest reviews, almost every guest review can be bucketed into one of those 3 categories. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to do some live demos here, where this is what we ask managers to do. And so we're going to do it live together on this call to show how we diagnose it. But this is also what we're teaching managers to do. And so, Matt, I'm going to start with you, but I'm also going to throw it to the chat to drop in some restaurant recommendations. So I'm going anywhere that Google Maps can find. I need a restaurant. I need a restaurant and a location. And we're going to go live zoom in unprompted and diagnose the guest feedback and tie it back to food, feel, flow. So Matt, you're up first, but please drop some in the chat because we're going to do a few here just to see the differences. Where should I look?
Okay, this is just the first one that popped into my head. I don't even know. Part of me is like, do they even exist anymore? Quiznos? Is Quiznos still a thing?
Well, I don't even know. Not where I am, but let's see.
They started in Denver. I know they started in Denver.
Permanently closed. Closed.
Quiznos in Denver? No.
Zoom out.
Man, I should have been ready.
Oh, there's one here. Is that open?
We
got a Quiznos in Dunn, North Carolina.
Wow. Okay.
All right, Dunn, North Carolina. Quiznos. I mean, the original toasted sub, right? Or was there?
I think so. It's pretty good.
We're going. All right. So this is what we'll do. We'll go to Quiznos in Dunn, North Carolina.
Okay.
So this is what we asked them to do, which is find your restaurant, click on it, and you're going to look at your feedback here. And so you can do this in Google, you can do this in Yelp, you could do this in whatever your platform is. Same idea. So this Quiznos, a 3.2 overall. Not awesome. Not awesome, if we're being honest. That's kind of quite average right there. We aim above a 4 is our first goal. And then we're really aiming for a 4.5 or above. And so that's what we want to do, is understand, well, what is it that's causing us, in this case, to be a 3.2, so that we can start to set goals to get to a 4. So the first is to figure out, well, what are guests saying? So here is what we do. I do a little bit of this. We go to reviews. And then here's what I'm going to do. So we got a lot of 1 stars here. What I'm going to do is sort first by lowest rating. Maybe it's a personality quirk of mine. I always like to get the negative feedback first. I like to know what it.
Well, I think even tactically, if you remember last week, Corbin was like very specific about there was a goal of a high NPS, of improving NPS like an 80, but really sort of like lead measures, lag measures, right? But the actual goal was eliminate ones.
That's
Was
right.
like, let's start by eliminating the detractors. So I think it makes sense. Let's start with the detractors and how do we chip away at detractors?
It is a great way to get good guest reviews is to eliminate all the bad ones. Then there's
Right,
only good ones left.
right. So
So in this case, that's right. So here we go. Lazy and rude. So walked in, thought I was invisible. Turned around and walked to the next store down the road. So again, a guest walked in here and was totally ignored. And so in our framework, that's all in feel. That's like let a guest know you're there and show them that you care. In this case, this guest did not feel like anybody cared they were even inside the restaurant. Not a great feeling when you walk in. So in our food, feel, flow, I'm looking at feeling here first. But I'm not just going to say, great, guys, we got to fix feeling because that's reacting to one comment. What I'm doing now is looking for trends. I'm going to go down here and we're going to look at a couple and I want to see what one keeps coming up, what's recurring over and over again. So I came in tonight with my girls and got an Italian sub. So sick, upset stomach. So food safety. Get a guest sick, they're likely not coming back. So I've got 1 and 1. So excited. It's been years. Yeah, it has been years. They were out of almost everything.
I just want to say, I think that's interesting. The first three negative comments were all three things: food, feel, flow.
That's right.
Like the first one was feel, like nobody greeted me, nobody made eye contact. The second one was food.
Food safety here.
The third one was flow. They ran out of stuff. Like we teach about restocking the line. One of the flow killers is restocking. You got to keep the line stocked, get out of your mise en place, ready to go. The first three negative comments were three things, one from each category.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it. And now we're going extremely slow. So food is good. This guy says food's great. Kevin King, food's great, extremely slow, and no personality. So flow and feel here, not great. Ordered ahead. Never got the order. That's also not good. Never getting the order. So ordered ahead. What else we got? I'm going to go 2 more and then we'll bounce out here. Used to love it. There's no one working there. I literally don't know if this place is open. What if it's just not open? What if we're diagnosing a restaurant that's literally a display stand? This is a tough one. So a lot of folks see this. So it does appear they are open. People are inside. Came in at 10. Catcher says we're closed, even though the sign says we're open. We see this a lot in at close time. If we get near close, where teams try to pre-close, and we see a ton of negative feedback here on not having a fully stocked line or not serving stuff, even though it's right before close. Surprisingly, a lot of guests, and I know for those of us that have worked in the industry, we know it. Guests come in right before we close. That last 10 or 15 minutes, they know we're about to close. They're pounding the line to get there. And so if you're locking the door saying go away, or you don't have enough food, the experience suffers dramatically. This happens a ton, but happens here. Came in at 10, says we're open. Employee says we're closed. Not a great feeling coming into that restaurant. So you can see here as we're diagnosing this, what we teach managers to do is they've got a literal piece of paper that just says food, feel, flow. And you can write this out on a piece of paper, just create 3 categories, food, feel, flow, and you're just making tally marks or notes of which element is tracking it down. But if I'm looking here, I'm thinking about flow and I'm thinking about feel. The feeling of the employees in the restaurant is not giving me what I want. And so to me, as I'm diagnosing this, I'm going, it's really not a surprise that this restaurant is seeing a 3.5. I'm actually amazed it's a 3.5. So we're going to go look at why it's a 3.5 on the other side. But if I'm a manager, I'm going, I've got to address some employee issues and I've got to speed up the line and make sure we're getting food as my first 2 orders of priority. And if I do that, I'm going to start eliminating some of these bad reviews. The next thing we do is flip to the highest to see what's going well, because we do want to celebrate the things that are going well and keep doing those. And so here you go, Jacob. Shame on the people leaving bad reviews. First time ever at Quiznos, and it was absolutely delicious.
Delicious food.
Delicious food. That's great. Always love Quiznos. Okay, doesn't really help us. They get the chicken carbonara. Keep serving it. Atmosphere is pleasant. Workers are friendly. Sub and soup is delicious. So feeling, atmosphere is pleasant and they're friendly. Good feeling here. And delicious food. I'm going to do one more just to see. You all get the idea here as we do this. They're all so friendly. So it gets into the feeling in the restaurant. So you can see why we're bucketing this into food, feel, flow. Because 99% of the time, it's pretty easily categorized into one of those three things: food, feel, or flow. And you're trying to diagnose what it is. So in this case, what we would teach managers is go find Jesse and let Jesse know that somebody shouted out. I don't know who Jesse, if Jesse's a manager, an employee, Jesse deserves to know, hey, someone loved your service. They said you were so friendly. That goes a long way with employees knowing that they were recognized. And so what we teach managers is, as you're getting the good feedback, share with the team. They think we're friendly. They think the food is good when we do it right. Let's keep doing that. But also, Jesse, huge shout out. Congratulations. Little high five goes a long way for a lot of employees for doing a good job. So that's the purpose of looking at these 5-star reviews.
I would say that reinforcing the positive is probably a better teaching tool than harping on the negative, right? Like to the team, like going through and being like,
absolutely,
Jesse got this shout out for this and this all, and then it's still the same thing. You're still reinforcing the standards. You're still coming back to your codified system, food, feel, flow, or whatever your hospitality system is that you have, but it has to be codified. It has to be systematized. And whether it's taking a look at the negative feedback and telling people what happened, or looking at the positive feedback and reinforcing that positive behavior and specific shout outs, it's still coming back and reinforcing the system. So I love that. I love that approach, this idea of like going into the 4 or 5-star reviews and finding all the stuff to reinforce, but again, still reinforcing the system that's been established. Yeah. And I think, just to add to that, it would be kind of saying, hey, managers, go in and check your reviews and talk to your team about it. Like, that's kind of obvious, right? Like, that's not revolutionary. What we really teach people is it has to be built on the system. It all kind of builds up to this, right? And it's just like what Sam said, those 3 columns and the tally marks, like having something to systemize this feedback, to not just make it like, hey, we got some bad reviews or we got some good reviews, great job. But like, hey, it all ladders back to this codified system that we have, that you've all learned, that you've all been introduced to. It's in the booklet that you got. It's in the training that you went through. Remember Captain Obvious, remember the standards. And now you're seeing it all come to life through these actual real life reviews of guests that have come through our doors. And here's how we can tackle it. And this just like brings it to a head, and really kind of all the underlying system is what makes this powerful and what makes this effective.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I see a couple more in the chat here. Should we do those? And then we'll show, what do you do with it? So now I've got a tally mark in this. We'll end there, but should we dive into some of these recommendations here?
Bob Evans. I don't know, Philip. I'm scared to do Cracker Barrel. I don't know. They've got.
Oh yes, we're doing a Cracker Barrel. We're totally doing a Cracker Barrel. Bob Evans. All right, let's see, Tony.
Too many people that could hop in. They have the power of social media.
I'm in the Carolinas here. Should I get out of the Carolinas and just say, or should we stick to the Southeast here?
The Carolinas, man.
Let's do it. We're just living in it. Let's go by Raleigh. Love some Raleigh. Well, let's see. Let's bounce around. So we got a 3.9, 3.9, very consistent. 4.1. This one's doing a little bit better. That's great. Let's look at one of our 3.9s up here and just see how do we get them over the hump here. So we are in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're right by the Briar Creek Commons.
Oh, classic.
Over here. Classic. But right by the airport. So same thing. Let's bounce it up. Let's start. Tony, since you're on the call, I'm going to start with the 5 stars first. Let's start with the good news. First timers, huge. Now in our framework, we have a whole special shout out for first timers on how you create that experience. I think in this series, Matt, we showed John Taffer, right? The John Taffer clip about getting him to come back.
Totally. Yeah.
Huge for the guest experience on if you know they're a first timer, how do you create such a great experience they come back a second, third, and fourth time? So first timers here.
Tony probably knows. Tony's probably been to this location, I'm assuming. Tony, have you been to this one?
Let's see. Yolanda. So here you go. Yolanda deserves a big shout out. I mean, what a review here. I'm going to be honest, reading, not my forte, more of a video guy myself, man, but a lot of text here. Let's see. I'm looking at guest experience. I'm reading as I go here. Largely because Yolanda, and I hope this review gets to the right people. Well, Tony, help us get it to the right people. Make sure Yolanda gets a little shout out here. But server helping a ton. So that's great. Amazing. Employees, super kind and funny, and the food is great. So here I'm looking at, again, 2 for 2 on feeling. The staff here is creating a pretty great feeling. The food is scrumptious. Boom, boom, boom. That's great. Let's do 2 more. Went here after arriving on an early flight. Haven't been there in years. Desiree or Desire. Might be a spelling error. Might be Desire. Great food. Great people.
Eggs. Talking about the eggs. Chalk one up in the feel category. Chalk one up in the food category.
Dude, Yolanda's killing it. Yolanda, again, 2 for 2 in Yolanda. So nice. Great to hear. So if I'm looking at all of these so far, what I'm seeing is people do love the food, but the staff here, something's going great with the staff. Like whatever Yolanda's doing, I'm going, Yolanda, what are you doing to create this experience? How do we reverse engineer that? That's exactly how we teach them to do it. So we would teach our managers to say, Yolanda, you're showing up over and over again. What exactly are you doing? What is your approach? How are you doing it? Let's codify that and teach it back to the team. Let's keep doing more of the 5-star thing. So Yolanda's delivering that. Let's flip it. We'll just do a couple here just for time so we don't spend too much. Here we go. 45 minutes to get food from the time we placed our order. So flow immediately. Mold on the ceilings, dead cockroach. Not a good look if that's true. If we're looking at that. So that gets into food safety, sanitary, not very appetizing. But when people are waiting for 45 minutes, they tend to look around and notice a whole lot more going on in the restaurant. So solve this. I mean, if there's a cockroach, please clean up the cockroaches. But we're looking at flow. Food's not great. This looks like a preference thing. The way that it tastes.
Also specific, frozen. I mean, I know at Chipotle that was like frozen corn was one of the top pieces of negative feedback. And that was a training issue because the corn salsa came frozen and needed to be properly slacked, properly thawed. And if they didn't follow the procedure, it was very much tied to like a very, very, very clear, like, hey, people are complaining about frozen corn. It's because you're not following the recipe, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, maybe we got to thaw some stuff out so it doesn't taste frozen. Or maybe we're like cooking frozen food that hasn't been thawed properly. So you're getting that burn.
Don't sue us, Chipotle, for revealing that your corn comes frozen.
Ooh. Let's go. Last one here. Service was decent once we got seated. Took forever to get our food. So it seems like, I mean, if you look at it, you can see the framework playing out. The great reviews. Food's delicious. Yolanda's killing it. The feel and the food are great when we get our 5-star reviews. When we get killed is in slow service. And so if I'm a manager, if we're teaching managers in this restaurant, it's when are we getting slow? Why are cook times getting back to 45 minutes? How do we stop that? What's the ideal ticket time? And we're diagnosing that issue. So we're not saying hospitality, get better, provide better customer service. We're narrowing it down and saying to get better at hospitality. And in this case, to get over the 4-star hump, we're honing in specifically on speed of service. All I'm talking about for the next 30 or 60 days as a GM in this restaurant is how do we do what Yolanda does? And how do we speed up ticket times? Because if we stop that, all the negative reviews stop coming in. Or in this case, 3 out of 4, 75% stop coming in. Now we'll start getting more positive reviews and we'll get over that 4.0 hump. So all of this is a forcing mechanism to narrow down the feedback based on the system so you can actually solve the problem and actually improve the guest experience based on what they're saying. Should we hit up one Cracker Barrel just for fun?
Do one Cracker Barrel, man.
Have you been, Matt, since the whole thing?
Since the logo thing,
Yeah, the logo
I have
debacle.
not. I have not. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's a lot of Cracker Barrels in or in Orange County. I don't know if there are any.
Well, we're gonna find. I'll zoom over there because there are plenty by me. Let's go over by you.
There's one in my hometown, Wichita, Kansas. There was one close by me. I used to go all the time. It's right off the highway.
All right, let's go to LA. Let's see. Oh, bro, you got
Wow.
Cracker Barrels everywhere.
All right, I'm making a road trip.
What do we got? A 4-1, a 4-3. This one's killing it. 4-3. 4-3. So let's do this. Let's look at a good one. Since we've looked at ones that are under 4, how do you get over a 4-5? What does that look like when you get to some of these bigger ones? Look at 9,000 reviews, 8,500 reviews.
Wow.
Man. All right, let's see what happens.
Victorville, that's right off the highway too. That's their bread and butter.
First timers. Here you go. So again, first time experience. People let you know when that first time comes in. I didn't filter. They gave it a 4 stars. Great customer service, helpful, friendly, scrambled eggs.
Give you good recommendations. I love that when it's like some of that specific feedback is again, I know I keep saying it, but it's tied to one of the specific standards. Like if we were going through this, I would say, hey, remember in our hospitality training and our feel where we said, hey, to get people to come back, you got to know your number one guest recommended favorite. You got to know what to recommend to people. You got to know the best thing to recommend and your personal thing to recommend. And that's what we teach and feel. That's what we teach on how to like talk to a first timer. And that's exactly what this person experienced. And so that would be just an amazing thing to reinforce of like, hey guys, look, it works.
That's right. We told you to do the thing. You do the thing. We got a 5-star review because you did the thing.
Yeah.
Keep doing the thing.
So good. So clear. I love
Absolutely.
it. So 1-to-1 tight end.
That's great. Interesting verbiage for a 5-star review. My experience here is satisfactory. But a 5-star review. I don't know what that means. I would take it if I'm the GM of the store. Again, first timer. Sweet and attentive. Checked on us. Food's delicious. Love looking the shop. So again, feel is great. Let's do 2 more here. Excellent food. Unparalleled service. That sounds more like a 5-star review.
That's a 5-star.
Clean, maintained. So again, you think food safety or cleanliness only shows up in negative reviews, but people do notice if it's a clean store and they appreciate eating in a clean environment. 100%. Here you go. Kai. I'm brutal on names here. Kai server there. So that's good. Let's read the other reviews. I wonder if we flip to the negative, if it's all about logos or if it's actually about food. Went to eat the appetizer. I'm trying to read through this because it is a boatload. I'm going to go to the next one just for all of our sanity.
Doing that one.
Employees keep to themselves, not very friendly. So this is a great counter to everything else we've seen where we're literally seeing the word friendly in the 5-star reviews. And here the counter is not very friendly. So again, we're focusing on that. Lacked flavor. And the negative, it's all about logos. Go. I'm a server myself. Service was non-existent. Uh-oh. Checking in here on Ms. Valerie to see what's going on. And again, you don't want to call employees out to let them know that they're being highlighted is in negative reviews, but you are checking in with Valerie to see what was going on, just to diagnose what happened. Let's see. 35 minutes later for our check. So we're on a little bit of food, a little bit of feel, and a little bit of flow here, all in one review. I'm going to do one more, and then we can break from this exercise to see what do we ask managers to do. Road trip food. Cornbread was bitter and unpleasant. So again, the food there, half raw, not great. Fish was delicious. So a good discerning guess that some of it was delicious, some of it not. Overall, the food is decent, but they ran out of their chicken and kept serving raw bread. So the food can be delicious, the service can be great, but if we're missing on a few things, it ends up down here. So that is the diagnosing. That's what we teach managers to do, which is every week you should be going in and staying on top of it, right? We're doing it right now. We're seeing reviews from 7 months ago, from 6 months ago, because we're doing it the first time. What we teach managers to do, though, Matt, is I'm going to pull up this poster and we can talk through this weekly check, but we call it the triple double check, which is an exercise that we teach managers, which is every week there are things that you need to be doing. And this is a simple version that we check in on. But the goal is every week, managers are reviewing these reviews and they're coming up with what we call an F3 focus for the week. F3 is food, feel, flow. Depending on what we just saw in this tracker on the weekly shift board here, they are saying this is the focus for the week. And so in this case, if we were just taking, let's do Bob Evans, because I remember some of the specific ones. It was flow was the number one thing of like those 45-minute ticket times were the only thing bringing down that restaurant. So for me, the F3 focus of the week, ticket times, getting food out on time, average time to order, something like that, whatever the Bob Evans verbiage is we are on it all week. And that's all we're talking about all week. And so you create a focus. So when the team clocks in, and this poster is right above wherever they're looking in the back of house, usually there's somewhere in the back of house, you've got a poster. Everyone knows this is the focus. And then every week you're highlighting the number of good experiences and the number of bad experiences. And this gets to exactly what we were talking about with Corbin, which is we want more 4 and 5 star reviews and less 1 and 2 star reviews. And so the whole goal of this poster is to make it front and center for all employees to say, we want 0 bad experiences. We want to create such a great environment that there are no 1 and 2 star reviews. And we've got a boatload of 4 and 5 star reviews, but let's first eliminate the bad experiences. And so that's what a manager does every week here to systematize this and keep it going and keep it top of mind every week. One focus for the week based on the diagnosis that we just did, then letting the team know what the good experiences are, what the negative experiences are, so we can all see our progress and it's front and center in a simple way. That's not like a business intelligence dashboard or any of our management reports that employees don't want to look at. This is nice and simple. And then we set goals for the shift here, but this is where I would like shout out Yolanda right here on the team shout outs. This is a dry erase board, whiteboard thing. Yolanda got 3 great reviews, publicly 5-star reviews in the past week. Great job, Yolanda. And then you go let her know too. But this is a simple way that we teach managers to track what's going on, literally look at your reviews, tie it back to the standards that we've previously set up and that you've taught everybody. And then every week, set a new focus for the team to keep it top of mind, track the number of good, eliminate the number of bad. And together now we've got a system where we're taking the words in the training and operationalizing it every single week to actually systematically improve the guest experience using data in our restaurants.
And something I love about that, the triple double check poster. I mean, I know like we're not talking about that necessarily, but that's a tool for the manager to communicate to the team what he or she is learning, right, about the guest experience. And that's the actual like correction point. It's a system that we can rely on to operationalize it, just like you said. I mean, that's just like such the best way to ever say it, right? It's like when you create a system around it, you operationalize it and make it something that can actually be actionable, something that you do on repeat. But the two aspects of that poster are the guest experience and like having a great shift, which are the kind of the 2 things that Corbin last week actually said that was like their focus and that they just keep coming back to. And that's why that was the Piata example, but we've used the same thing with other brands that we've worked with, where like, hey, let's just focus in on these 2 things, like the guest experience and everybody and the team experience, which is having a great shift for the team. And so everything's going to kind of come back to that. So it's your deployment chart. It's all kind of the operational stuff. It's like what you need to do that day. It's goals for the shift. It's the deployment chart, but it's really under this framework of having great experience for guests and having a great experience for the teams. And that's just like kind of bringing it back to that same thing and beating the same drum over and over and over, which is what creates results.
That's right. So I think this is like, this is almost the culmination of the system that like a manager can't just teach it. You can't send somebody to the back and watch some videos on hospitality or have them written down and expect the team to just deliver. You've got to check in almost. And we use guest feedback as that feedback loop to say, is it working or is it not working? And when you look at the reviews specifically, it's really easy to see like, well, what are the things going well? What are the things going poorly? And let's systematically eliminate the things that are going poorly to keep creating the guest experience. It keeps it top of mind for employees and makes it more than just a video that's in the back or a thing they saw during orientation, but it's an actual way of like learning these things and putting it into practice and then finding out if we're doing well or poorly.
So that is kind of a cap on teaching managers how to diagnose and correct the guest experience.
That's right.
And I know we've been talking about this the last few weeks. We are going to continue doing this through the month of November, through the month of December, and one of the upcoming topics we kind of are still going to be talking a little bit about food and feel, food and flow. In a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about navigating a food safety crisis, and really, kind of for the first time ever, talking about our experience at Chipotle going through the E. coli crisis. Sam was the head of training, learning and development, and internal communications and ops services. He led that team, that department. And I can say, I hope you mind me saying, he got kind of thrust into it at a fairly very young age, and put into this role, and almost immediately after being put into this role and earning this role, there was a food safety crisis of like mass proportions at a very large, well-known brand. And so for the first time ever, he's going to be kind of breaking down what that was like and sort of a little bit of behind the scenes of what came together in order to properly communicate in like in an environment where communication was changing on a daily basis, where procedures were changing on a daily basis, where it was a lot of like, this department thinks it's this department thinks it's that, and having to put together a lot of different voices and a lot of different ideas in order to clearly communicate to like 75,000 employees how to actually do something when you're supposed to maybe give them 3 months. We gave them like 3 days in order to sort of like right this ship. So I'm excited to talk about that in a few weeks and to hear that. I don't know, Sam, are you stoked to talk about that?
I am. We've never talked about it. Like obviously, I'll talk about it when everybody asks, but we've never like publicly talked about it. And I think for anybody who's in training or in communications or in ops services, the experience of what you go through and like the stakeholder management is just amplified a million times. And I think for us, like as the team and as the department going through it, we were prepared for it in some ways. We were very unprepared for it in other ways. So a lot of lessons learned. But I think coming out the other side, we also have a really fun perspective of like, I think we learned what actually matters. Because you have to strip away a lot of the things because time is so tight, and that like when an emergency happens, you've got this much time to do this much work. And so you need to learn really quickly what actually matters, whose opinion counts, and how do you go quickly. I think the team got really good at that, which then sharpened our ability down the road to do anything really easily and really simply, because you have to learn how to do that in a crisis when you're changing that much that quickly.
That's right. So thanks everybody for joining us. Continue. We'd love to have you again, specifically as we dive into these topics over the next few weeks. And I know we opened with this, the Kiwi question, like, is this okay? But I completely forgot.
You have a Kiwi?
I did have a, is this okay?
Oh, do it. Yes.
Is this okay? Are mustaches cool in 2025? I don't know. I don't know, Sam. Is this okay?
I was proud of myself. I went 54 minutes and said nothing.
Wow.
Which means it must be okay.
It must be okay. Thank you. And I'm out.
I think it's pretty good. You pull it off. I could not. You pull it off well.
Oh, thank
Looks
you.
Good.
That's why you grow a beard, is so that you can have a mustache for a few days. So
Oh, you got people missing your beard in the comments. That's,
Wow.
threw you off.
Wow. 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 Thanks. Thank you.
I hope this comes back next week. I hope, or actually in 2 weeks. You're out next week, but
yeah, next week I'm on location with one of our vendors at a conference. But yeah, Sam's gonna be you'll be in good hands.
I'll hold it down. We'll be
Co-host.
missing you.
Maybe a surprise co-host.
We'll see. We will see. Stay tuned next week. All about food.
All right. Thanks, everybody.